In the name of Allah, who is the most merciful, imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a storm, the kind that shakes your heart, blurs your vision, and makes you question if the sun will ever rise again. You've prayed, cried, and waited, yet the silence feels endless. But let me tell you something beautiful. The silence of Allah is not His absence. It's His preparation. Every tear you've shed is being recorded by the one who never forgets. Every sleepless night is seen by the one who never sleeps. And every time your heart whispered, "Why Allah, I can't do this anymore," He was already writing your miracle. Pain is not a punishment, it's a doorway. A doorway that leads you closer to Allah, the only one who can turn your heartbreak into healing and your loss into light. When you feel like everything is falling apart, perhaps it's because Allah is rebuilding you piece by piece into someone stronger, someone who trusts Him completely. Remember, the Prophet I said, know that victory comes with patience, relief with affliction, and ease with hardship. So don't rush the process. Don't lose hope when the night feels endless. Even the darkest sky holds the promise of dawn. Your miracle might not come in the way you expect, but it will come in the way that's best. Because the one who split the sea for Musa, the one who brought light to the cave of the Prophet A, is the same one watching over you today. So hold on. Your story isn't over. Allah is still writing it, and when the miracle comes, you'll understand why you had to walk through the storm first. Never lose hope, because the author of your story is the one who says, "Be," and it is. Pain is not punishment, it's purification. This truth holds a deep spiritual reality that many forget when they are drowning in hardship. In moments of pain, the heart often whispers, "Why me?" The mind begins to question, "What did I do wrong?" But the wisdom of faith reminds us that not every trial is a sign of Allah's displeasure. In fact, for the believer, pain can be one of the greatest gifts, a means through which Allah cleanses the heart, removes attachment to this world, and draws the soul closer to Him. When life feels unbearable, it is easy to interpret pain as rejection. Yet, sometimes Allah chooses those He loves most to endure the heaviest tests. The Prophet Mohammed said, "The most severely tested people are the prophets, then those nearest to them, then those nearest to them." This hadith reveals something profound. Pain is not a mark of Allah's anger, but a reflection of His attention. He tests the strong not to break them, but to polish their hearts until they shine with sincerity and faith. A person may walk through fire, but if they emerge purified of pride, ego, and attachment, that fire has not destroyed them. It has refined them. Think of gold. Before it gleams, it must be heated until impurities rise to the surface. Only then can it become valuable and pure. The same is true for the believer. Hardships burn away arrogance, impatience, and reliance on people, leaving behind a soul that depends solely on Allah. Through pain, Allah removes the illusions of control that we hold tightly to and reminds us that He alone is the controller of all affairs. When Allah loves someone, He tests them not to see them suffer, but to bring them back to a state of humility and remembrance. Pain has a way of softening the hardest heart. It humbles the arrogant and awakens the heedless. A person who once forgot to pray might fall into sujood every night through tears. A person who once took blessings for granted might suddenly see Allah's mercy in every breath. The very pain that we wish away can become the means of our return to Him. Every difficulty carries within it a hidden mercy. When Allah withholds something, it is only because He wants to give something better. Sometimes that better is not material, it is spiritual, it is peace. It is a heart that knows contentment, even in loss. It is the deep awareness that no matter how heavy life becomes, Allah never burdens a soul beyond what it can bear. Pain teaches us patience. It teaches us surrender. And through surrender, we discover freedom, freedom from fear, from disappointment, from the illusion that we are alone. When you face hardship, ask not, why me? But what is Allah teaching me through this? Perhaps He is purifying your heart from something unseen. A sin you forgot, a habit you need to break, or an attachment that is blocking your connection to Him. Every tear shed for His sake washes away a layer of spiritual dust. Every moment of endurance writes a chapter of reward. Allah never lets a believer's pain go to waste. So, the next time life hurts, remember that purification often feels like pain before it feels like peace. Just as the rain cleanses the earth, trials cleanse the heart. Allah's love is not always shown in comfort. Sometimes it is hidden in the struggle that transforms you. When you realize that pain no longer feels like punishment, it feels like an invitation, a call to return to Allah purer, softer, and stronger than before. Darkness is the womb of new beginnings. Life's most challenging moments often feel like endless nights where fear, doubt, and despair seem to dominate every corner of our hearts. In these moments, it is easy to think that nothing good will ever emerge, that the pain will never end, and that hope is a distant memory. Yet, darkness is not the absence of light. It is the space in which light is quietly preparing to enter. Just as a seed is buried in soil before it sprouts, and just as a pearl is formed inside an oyster hidden beneath layers of grit, our most profound transformations often begin in times of concealment, struggle, and silence. When a person feels overwhelmed by trials, it is important to understand that these trials are not meaningless. They are shaping, molding, and preparing us for what is to come. Darkness has a way of stripping away distractions and forcing reflection. In this quiet, often uncomfortable space, we confront our fears, our weaknesses, and our dependence on the Creator. The womb of darkness teaches us patience, humility, and trust in divine timing. It reminds us that life's most beautiful outcomes are rarely instantaneous. They require a process, often invisible, before they can manifest. Many prophets and righteous individuals endured periods of darkness before their breakthroughs. Joseph was imprisoned, away from home and family, in a cold, isolating cell. The hardships he faced could have led to despair. Yet that darkness was the preparation for his ultimate rise to a position of immense influence and goodness. Similarly, the Prophet Muhammad faced years of rejection and hardship before the advent of Islam became a guiding light for millions. Their examples remind us that darkness is not permanent. It is temporary, holding within it the potential for something extraordinary. In our personal lives, when circumstances feel heavy, when doors seem closed, and when solutions seem impossible, it is often the beginning of a new chapter. Darkness encourages us to slow down, to reflect on our intentions, and to seek Allah with sincerity. It awakens the inner strength we might never have realized we possessed. It nurtures resilience, empathy, and faith, qualities that will guide us when the light finally emerges. The key is to remain steadfast and patient during these times. Even when the night seems endless, the promise of dawn is always there. Allah reminds us in the Quran that after every hardship comes ease. Darkness is temporary, but the growth, wisdom, and clarity that emerge from it can last a lifetime. By embracing the womb of darkness, we learn to trust Allah's timing, to hold on to hope, and to prepare ourselves for the blessings and miracles that await on the other side of the trial. The moments of struggle are not void of purpose. They are essential to the unfolding of our story. Like a seed that cannot bloom without soil and pressure, we too cannot reach our full potential without enduring some level of difficulty. Darkness is the silent, unseen force that shapes our character, strengthens our faith, and prepares our hearts for the miracles that are yet to come. It is a reminder that even in what feels like despair, Allah's wisdom is at work, crafting new beginnings that we may not yet see, but are destined to experience. Faith is tested not to destroy you, but to strengthen your connection with Allah. Life is full of moments that challenge our belief, push our limits, and force us to confront the fragility of our own control. Trials are not random misfortunes meant to break us. Rather, they are deliberate opportunities for growth, designed by Allah to deepen our reliance on Him and purify our hearts. Every difficulty, no matter how small or overwhelming, carries with it a hidden lesson and a chance to elevate our spiritual resilience. When we encounter hardship, it is natural for fear, doubt, or frustration to arise. Yet these very moments are when faith has the opportunity to shine most brightly. Faith is not measured by how we feel in comfort or ease, but by how we respond when everything around us seems uncertain or collapsing. The test of faith is like stretching a muscle. It may be uncomfortable or even painful at first, but through endurance and trust, strength develops. Each challenge presents a choice to despair, to blame, or to turn inward and upward toward Allah. Choosing the latter transforms trials into stepping stones, turning moments of weakness into pillars of spiritual strength. Consider the stories of the prophets who endured hardships that would seem unbearable to ordinary people. They were not spared from pain, loss, or ridicule, yet their faith never wavered. Their trials were not punishments, but avenues through which their reliance on Allah was strengthened. Through adversity, they demonstrated patience, submission, and unwavering trust in divine wisdom. This pattern teaches us that faith is not meant to shield us from difficulty. It is meant to empower us to navigate life's storms with the assurance that Allah's support is always present. Every test carries a deeper purpose. Sometimes the challenge is external loss, disappointment, or betrayal. Other times it is internal, struggling with doubt, anger, or fear. In both cases, the test invites self-reflection and spiritual growth. By confronting these trials with sincerity, humility, and prayer, we fortify our relationship with Allah. We learn to recognize that our ultimate strength is not in our resources, our intellect, or our ability to control circumstances, but in our surrender to the one who controls all things. Faith grows strongest not in abundance, but in adversity, not in certainty, but in moments that demand trust beyond what the heart can initially comprehend. Moreover, every trial is a reminder that Allah is attentive to our struggles. When the heart calls out in sincerity, He responds in ways that may not always be immediate or obvious, but always in perfect timing. The process of being tested refines our character, purifies our intentions, and prepares us for the blessings that follow. Faith, when nurtured through trials, becomes a source of unshakable hope, a guiding light even in the darkest moments. Ultimately, the purpose of trials is not to defeat us, but to draw us nearer to Allah. They remind us that life is transient, that our dependence should be on Him alone, and that every hardship carries with it the potential for spiritual elevation. When we face difficulties with patience and trust, we discover that tests do not weaken faith, they deepen it. They transform ordinary belief into a living, breathing connection with Allah, one that can endure any storm and anticipate the miracles that He will unfold. Faith is strengthened in the fire of trials, and each challenge endured with patience and reliance on Allah is a step toward spiritual maturity and ultimate success, both in this life and in the hereafter. Miracles often come wrapped in patience. Life has a way of testing our endurance, stretching our hearts, and challenging our expectations. In moments of desperation, when prayers feel unanswered and doors remain closed, it is easy to forget that divine timing operates on a scale far beyond our understanding. What may appear as delay, emptiness, or silence is often the preparation for something far greater than we could imagine. Allah's miracles are rarely rushed. They unfold precisely when hearts are ready to receive them, when circumstances have aligned, and when patience has transformed longing into steadfast trust. Patience is more than simply waiting. It is a conscious choice to trust Allah, to maintain hope, and to continue striving even when results are not immediately visible. It is the bridge between hardship and relief, the soil in which faith takes root and grows. Many times, a miracle arrives not in the way we expect, but in the form most beneficial for us. Sometimes, what we perceive as a setback is the redirection toward a blessing that is immeasurably greater than what we had imagined. The Quran reminds us repeatedly that after hardship comes ease. This is not merely a promise, it is a principle of life governed by divine wisdom. A moment of silence, a delay, or a test is not denial but preparation. Miracles require patience because they are transformative. If they arrived prematurely, the heart might not recognize their value, or the soul might not be ready to embrace them fully. Just as a fruit ripens only after enduring the sun, rain, and wind, the blessings that Allah prepares for us mature through our perseverance, our trust, and our unwavering hope. History and scripture are filled with examples of patience leading to divine intervention. Prophets, saints, and ordinary believers alike endured trials that seemed unending, yet through patience, their prayers were answered and their lives transformed. What appeared impossible was made possible. What seemed lost was restored. What was delayed arrived in abundance. These examples remind us that miracles are not random acts, but purposeful manifestations of divine mercy, orchestrated in perfect timing to maximize both benefit and impact. Patience is not passive. It requires active trust and conscious surrender. It involves continuously turning to Allah in prayer, seeking guidance, and maintaining hope even when the heart wavers. It is in the repetition of these acts, in the quiet resilience of the soul, that the conditions for a miracle are nurtured. The moment a heart submits fully to divine timing, relief arrives, often in ways far beyond imagination. It is also important to recognize that patience cultivates gratitude. When a long-awaited blessing finally unfolds, the heart that endured the wait can fully appreciate the miracle. The struggle itself becomes part of the gift, deepening faith, humility, and reliance on Allah. Each hardship endured with patience magnifies the beauty of the eventual breakthrough, creating a cycle of trust and hope that strengthens the believer for future trials. Therefore, do not despair if your prayers feel delayed or if life's challenges seem unending. Miracles are always on the horizon, and they are most profound when tempered by patience. Trust in Allah's timing, remain steadfast in faith, and continue to seek His guidance. The very act of waiting with hope is itself a form of worship, and through it, the heart is prepared to witness the extraordinary ways in which Allah turns trials into blessings, silence into answers, and longing into miraculous fulfillment. Detached from the world, attached to the Creator. In the midst of life's chaos, it is easy to place our trust in people, possessions, or circumstances, thinking they hold the power to secure our happiness, ease our burdens, or fulfill our dreams. Yet these worldly anchors are fragile, fleeting, and often unreliable. People may disappoint, plans may fail, and wealth may vanish. True stability, comfort, and relief come only when we place our dependence on Allah, the ever-living, the all-powerful, whose wisdom governs all things and whose mercy is limitless. Detachment does not mean abandoning responsibilities or becoming indifferent to life. Rather, it is a shift of focus from clinging to the transient to trusting the eternal. When a believer detaches from the illusion of control and surrenders fully to Allah, they discover a freedom that the world cannot offer. The heart becomes lighter, the mind calmer, and the soul steadier. The anxieties that once consumed energy and joy lose their grip because the believer recognizes that ultimate control rests not with circumstances, but with the Creator. Attachment to Allah transforms perspective. Trials no longer feel meaningless. Blessings are appreciated with deeper gratitude. Life's uncertainties, setbacks, and disappointments are met with trust rather than panic. Even in moments of loss, the believer feels secure because their connection is anchored to the one who is never absent, never unaware, and never unjust. Detachment from the temporary world nurtures reliance on the eternal, creating a resilient heart that can endure hardship with dignity and patience. History is full of examples where turning to Allah, rather than worldly supports, brought the greatest relief. When the Prophet Muhammad faced rejection, betrayal, and hardship, he did not despair because his trust was in Allah. Those who rely solely on human support may experience fleeting ease, but those who rely on the divine witness a depth of comfort that no worldly possession or person can provide. The miracle of Allah's intervention often arrives not through predictable means, but in ways that only He can orchestrate, and only when the heart is ready to surrender entirely to Him. Detachment also cultivates contentment. When a person learns not to depend excessively on people or material things, they find joy in what Allah has given rather than despair in what they lack. This balance strengthens faith, fosters gratitude, and opens the heart to divine guidance. The believer begins to see life's events not as random occurrences, but as lessons, tests, and opportunities to grow closer to Allah. This perspective turns challenges into acts of worship and struggles into pathways to spiritual elevation. Ultimately, attaching to the Creator while letting go of worldly dependencies aligns the heart with its true purpose. It allows a believer to remain steadfast when life is unpredictable, hopeful when circumstances seem bleak, and patient when the outcome is uncertain. It is in this detachment that miracles are most likely to unfold because the heart is fully surrendered, receptive, and attuned to divine intervention. By placing trust in Allah alone, the believer transforms trials into opportunities, fear into faith, and longing into a serene assurance that Allah, the most merciful, is always in control and always working for their ultimate good. This balance between detachment from the world and attachment to Allah is not only a spiritual principle, but a practical approach to life. It nurtures inner peace, strengthens resilience, and prepares the believer to recognize and embrace the miracles that Allah places along their path, often in the most unexpected and extraordinary ways. Hope is an act of worship. In the darkest moments of life, when challenges feel overwhelming and the heart is heavy with worry, maintaining hope is not merely a feeling. It is a conscious choice, an expression of faith, and a form of devotion to Allah. To hope in Allah, even when circumstances seem impossible, is to acknowledge His infinite power, His mercy, and His perfect wisdom. It is a statement that no matter how dire the situation appears, we trust that He has the ability to turn things around, and that His plan is always greater than our understanding. When the heart clings to hope in the face of difficulty, it demonstrates trust that transcends logic and circumstance. Human eyes may see defeat, yet hope rooted in faith sees potential opportunity and divine possibility. Every prayer whispered, every tear shed, and every moment of patience during trials reinforces that hope. It is an active reliance on Allah, an intimate acknowledgement that He alone can change what seems unchangeable. In essence, maintaining hope becomes an act of worship because it aligns the heart with the belief that Allah is the ultimate source of mercy, relief, and blessing. Hope sustains the soul during trials. When despair threatens to take hold, hope acts as a spiritual lifeline, reminding the believer that difficulties are temporary, that Allah's wisdom encompasses what we cannot see, and that relief will come in the perfect time. The Quran repeatedly reassures us that after hardship comes ease. Holding on to hope is not passive waiting. It is an active engagement with faith. It requires perseverance in prayer, consistency in good deeds, and trust in Allah's timing and decree. By nurturing hope, the believer demonstrates resilience, faith, and an unwavering connection to the Creator. Furthermore, hope is transformative. It shapes how we respond to adversity. A hopeful heart is patient rather than impatient, grateful rather than bitter, and optimistic rather than despairing. It enables the believer to endure pain with dignity and courage, knowing that every hardship carries the potential for growth, reward, and divine intervention. The very act of maintaining hope during trying times strengthens faith, builds character, and fosters a deeper awareness of Allah's presence in all matters. Miracles, blessings, and relief often arrive when hope is unwavering. Many of the stories in the Quran illustrate that those who trusted in Allah, despite overwhelming odds, were rewarded with outcomes far beyond expectation. The believer learns to see that hope is not dependent on immediate results, but on the certainty that Allah's plan is perfect and that He is never negligent of His servants. To give up hope is to deny the mercy and wisdom of the one who controls all affairs. To maintain hope is to submit fully to His power and love. In essence, hope is not passive optimism, but a deliberate act of faith and worship. It bridges despair with trust, weakness with reliance, and struggle with divine intervention. A hopeful heart turns trials into opportunities, darkness into anticipation of light, and waiting into an act of devotion. When a believer nurtures hope, they are participating in a sacred practice, trusting in Allah's mercy and preparing their heart to receive the miracles He has destined for them. Hope, therefore, is both a shield and a beacon. It protects the believer from despair and illuminates the path through life's storms. By keeping hope alive, one strengthens faith, cultivates resilience, and aligns the heart with Allah's endless mercy, ensuring that no matter how dire the situation appears, miracles remain possible and relief inevitable.